We spoke with Nick about the process of identifying users' needs. Now we'll speak with a product designer about his role in the design process. You might recognize him. He's our instructor, Jeff Hillenbrand.
The design of any given product or feature has lots of different parts of the design process all playing together. A feature might start by identifying an emerging behavior by users in an existing product. We might also see something that we think will really help users and drive that from an impact perspective. From there, usually the designer starts or a researcher starts exploring what ideas we have for how this feature might manifest. So we look at all different types of alternative possibilities for a design. Say you're building a media product, like there's lots of different ways to present a certain picture. It could be in a full screen image, it could be as part of a slideshow or an image grid, just as an example. So we look at all different ways that we can put this design out there. And we work in partnership with research, which is looking to validate any certain idea or learn more from users about what our opportunities are by talking with them in person or bringing these different explorations we have to the users. Yeah, once we have signal on a design that we like, we might pick 1 to 3 ideas to test out. So the designer will work with the researcher and the product manager and some other team members to develop a prototype, which we can then bring to users to help validate these ideas. We start out by talking with user researchers about what the goal of our research might be, whether it's cognition or product market fit or just overall product understanding and usability. And based on that, we're building flows in certain pieces of software that make interactive prototypes that people can hold in their hand and actually play with. And this allows us to watch their reactions to certain features. We get to ask them questions about their understanding of it, and ultimately these observations lead to insights which influence future designs. The next step after watching someone use a prototype is taking those findings and converting them into insights or design changes. We go back to the drawing board, we discuss with a researcher what needs to be altered to accommodate the different ways someone might use this app or this product. We might do a few more rounds of iterations on this prototype to learn more about each correction we're making, and ultimately when we're confident in something, we'll move it into a higher fidelity stage. We try to involve engineers in every step of the process so they're behind every decision we make. Ultimately though, once we've made a high fidelity design, we do spec it for actual production. So this means explaining how every interaction works, getting dimensions on the different UI features. There's also a long tail that follows, which means the designer and also researchers are involved in several stages after making a final design, which could be exporting assets, preparing even more rounds of iterations if we're doing more research, or revising designs for new edge cases we didn't anticipate, which might only arise once we start coding it up. Sometimes we identify edge cases through the engineering process, which means someone has identified a step that's actually missing. There's no way to get from this part to another part of the flow, perhaps. And at that point, we'd go back and we'd revise the flow. We also find tons of edge cases in user testing earlier in the process, which is where someone might ask a question that we'd never anticipated, which illuminates their unique position in this product. You know, again, this validates the need for user testing because we would never anticipate those specific needs. My team at Facebook is the consumer payments team, which means alongside ads payments, we work on things that are more focused at the end user of Facebook. And so one of the features that we put out recently is called group requests. It's part of a feature where inside of our messaging app, you can send and request money to each other. And we identified that people were sending a lot of these inside of group threads, so threads with multiple people, and all of them were for the same amount. And we figured that this would be a cool opportunity to make a feature that accommodates that behavior and allows them to do it faster and in a more consolidated, efficient way. So we identified that emerging behavior, and we built out a feature, launched it several months ago, that addresses this need. And along the way, not only did we stumble on this feature because of watching users and engaging with users, but we validated it after having initial explorations with users around the area. So we not only came up with the idea because of user-centered design, but we really reinforced the idea that it was valuable through that process.